One more time, I share some of James Dillard Freeman's work, his beautiful words from Prayer, the Master Key. It's a great book. Maybe someday you'll find a copy in a used bookstore or on eBay. Or maybe I should just reprint the thing. It's wonderful. I said to the Master, sometimes prayer is like a call. God, are you there? The Master said, and sometimes I wonder if God does not send out an answering call. Man, are you there? Man has come to a fork in the road. He sees his world as a world of contradictions. The old values molder, the old rules change, the old certainties crumble, but he is not yet sure of any new ones. Shall he go this way or that? Shall he turn here or there for help? I do not believe that there has ever been a thinking man who did not have times when he doubted there was a God. He looks at the world and he sees so much suffering and cruelty that it makes him question that love can be at work there. And if God is not love, what is he? He calls, God, God, but he hears no answering voice. He prays, but nothing happens. Or, if it does, it is not anything that he can recognize as an answer to his prayer. It is interesting that usually the more intelligent a man is, the harder time he has believing. It's easy to see why, of course. He sees all the reasons for not believing. For this world is full of reasons for believing, but it is also full of reasons for not believing. When in our probing we pry out enough of the latter, no matter how many of the former we may find, we begin to doubt. Part of our reason for doubt is that we think of God as a person like ourselves. When we talk to him as a man, we expect him to talk to us as a man. We expect to hear a something, or even an angry voice, and we expect to feel a comforting arm around our shoulders, or a kick in the pants. But God is not a man. God is not like a man. I may be like him in the essence of myself, whatever that is, but he is not like me. I get to thinking he is like me because he has to operate on the level where I am if I am to encounter him or recognize him when I do. If he does not speak to me in English, he cannot speak to me at all because I will not understand what I hear. If he cannot reveal himself to me in some form I recognize as divine, he cannot appear to me at all because I will not know him when I see him. If I am convinced God is a person, he's going to have to look like a person. He's going to have to talk like a person. He's going to have to act like a person, or no matter what happens to me, I will not believe God had a hand in it. None of us, no matter what we may say, actually in our heart, altogether believe God is like this. But much of the time we cry after him as if we do. We are like the boy starting to slide off the roof and calling out, God, God, help me! And a moment later adding, it's all right, God, I don't need help. I caught on a nail. We've been talking about prayer, one of those kind of mysterious things, sometimes in our thinking. The reason I picked that song is because The title of that song is What We Do Need. What did she sing? People need houses, new cars, win jackpots. Those are all nice. But what do we really need? All of those desires stand in the place of what we really need is a greater awareness of God. More awareness of God expressing in us and in our lives. Can you imagine a creator who would create a universe and create it in such a way that it was impossible for us to feel a connection with it itself, the Creator? I think of some of the words of Charles Fillmore in the early days of Unity. He said, in thinking about this thing, a creator, God, an intelligence in this universe, he said, if there's anything to this, I can go to headquarters. That he could make contact and receive guidance, information. I know from his writing that he spent time doing that, a fair amount of time. Sometimes going deep within in prayer for us can be a real challenge because we're afraid of it. We think it's kind of mysterious, some kind of mystery to it, not sure we're going to do it right. I also cannot imagine a creator who would create such a thing as prayer and make it so difficult, nobody could do it. We're all connected to that source, and we all have the same ability to contact it and experience it. So Charles did just what he said. He went to headquarters. He spent time every day in prayer, and actually in that form of prayer we can call meditation, going within. At first, he didn't hear any spectacular voices. He didn't get flashes of visions, but he began to have dreams. And in those dreams, he got information. I always chuckle over the one dream that he got that he didn't pay any attention to. They banked with Commerce Bank down here in the city, and it was the 1920s, 1929, and he got this dream. He, in his dream, was in that bank, and there were cobwebs, there were no people, it looked derelict, and he couldn't understand it. He had the dream again, couldn't understand it, and then the stock market crash hit, and he said, oh yeah. That's what that was about. He had the guidance for the name, Unity. He had the guidance for the image of the Unity wings. He had guidance throughout his time as the founder, co-founder with Myrtle of the entire Unity movement. All because he believed he could go to headquarters, and if there was anything to this, there would be communication. And it happened. So if you ever think, well, I don't know how to do it, or it's too hard, well, I remember my first two-wheel bike. It was used. Actually, it was well used. By that I mean they didn't use it well, they used it a lot. And it did have two fenders on it. They were spray painted with black. It was one of those old boys' bikes. And my uncle took me out to teach me how to ride. And I will tell you, after the first time, I fell off of it. After riding it, 6 inches or something? My attitude was, okay, that's enough of that. I've experienced the two-wheel bike, and can we go do something else? Something fun? My Uncle Al was persistent and encouraged me, and after a while, I was doing pretty well. And then I ended up riding that bike to death. Not mine, but its. And I remember that next birthday. This would have been 1950s, so maybe recognize this style. Remember English bikes? For my birthday, I got an English bike. 3-speed. Oh, was I hot. One little hitch. Usually they came in black for the boys, and I don't know if there was a color for the girls. Mine was purple. Oh, the shame of it. But I rode that bicycle till the fenders fell off. It's amazing what a little practice did. One time, one of my buddies, we were in 4th grade, we got on our bikes, and it was 5 miles at least from where we lived in St. Bernard to downtown Fountain Square in Cincinnati, Ohio. And that's to the city and all the traffic and everything. And we rode downtown by ourselves at 9 years old. Adventuresome. Yes. Nobody ever knew where we were. Yeah. It was a wonderful experience. But what happened? My world got bigger. It got a lot larger because I dared try. And not only tried, I was persistent, thanks to my uncle. And I reached the place where I could do it. And my world got bigger. Prayer's kind of like that. Now, Jesus talked a bit about prayer, and this is in the 6th chapter of Matthew, and what we call the Sermon on the Mount. It begins in verse 5. And when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, that they may be seen by men. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. What can you imagine? Oh, I'm so pious. You must hear me pray. It's just wonderful. I want to really impress you with how well I can pray. That is a reward, I suppose. A couple of strokes, people say, oh man, you're a good prayer. I wish I could pray like you. Yeah, I know. That's not what prayer's about. Prayer's about making that connection with headquarters, making that union so that you and the Lord of your being not only are one, but you know it, you sense it, you feel it, and you open yourself to the light of the sun. God individualized in you, the Christ in you. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door. That's one of the difficult parts. When you pray, go into your room and shut the door. I went into my room many times. Billy, go to your room. But it wasn't the same. Jesus is telling us that the nature of our consciousness is pivotal. The nature of the soul is pivotal. We can look outside and get all our information from out here, and we do, most of the time. But we can also turn our attention away from outside, turn around and look the other direction, within. Pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Looking within to that place where you finally sense that oneness, that unity with your Creator, with divine mind, God, the supreme intelligence, the source of all life, the source of all love, all substance. When you go into your room and shut the door on the outer, you need to turn around. You're looking the other way, within. When you turn around, in the song it said, He is the open door. That's what you see when you turn around in your consciousness and look up. Look within. Look to God within yourself. That door that opens out into the light of the eternal. And in praying, do not heap up empty phrases. I still am stuck with the old version. Vain repetitions. My grandmother was Catholic. And she had a rocking chair in the front room of their apartment. We lived in a two-family, my parents and I downstairs, and my father's mother and sister lived upstairs. Their bedroom was at the front of the house looking out onto the street. And right in front of the windows, and there were 4 windows across the front of the house looking out, she had a round table and her rocking chair, big wooden rocker. And Granny sat there in her rocker every day with her prayer cards laid out on that table in front of her and her rosary, and she rattled the beads and she said her prayers, may I say, religiously. She did novenas. You know what those are, right? A particular set of prayers for some particular intention that you do every hour. There's such a thing as a 9-hour novena. You do that every hour for 9 hours. I remember whenever we ate with Grandma and Corinne, my aunt, the meal always began with grace. So everybody would close their eyes, and then I would hear, bless us, O Lord, for the gifts we're about to receive from thy merciful bounty. Amen. Did you get that? Could you write that down for me, please? Since I've learned, I think prayer needs to at least touch your own consciousness. You know? Instead of being a machine gun, you're not trying to shoot God down with your words. It's not the number of words. It's not even the right words. There are no right words, except the right words are the ones that come out of your heart, that are sincere and are real. Do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. Oh. Over the years, I've played for many, many churches from the time I was 16. And there was a church in Cincinnati. It met on Sunday evenings. I played piano for that church. And it was a mixed congregation. But I mean men, women, white, black. It was pretty diverse. And there was always a time of prayer, and the congregation could individually voice a prayer. So I would hear this, and I'd be doing soft background music, and then I'd hear this voice. Oh Lord, teach us how to pray and what to pray about. That was always the first line, and it was every Sunday from this one person in the congregation. And then he'd start praying. And I'd be playing and playing and getting sleepy. And he'd pray. The longest prayer in the world, I'd think, Lord, make an end to it. I felt like the Pope walking into the Sistine Chapel looking up at Michelangelo saying, make an end to it. I wonder if God felt the same way. Many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask. We say, God is mine, infinite intelligence. And remember, God knows all. So, do you need to use a lot of words to tell God about your life and your situation? No. If you want for your sake to say a little bit about it, yeah, fine. But remember, the prayer is not about getting God to do something for you that God won't do. It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, to provide you with an abundance of all things necessary. And that's life enough, health enough, peace of mind enough, substance enough, joy enough. And that may or may not include a winning lottery ticket now and then, who knows? When you go into your closet and shut the door, you have that moment of aloneness with the Lord of your being where you can ask anything. What's it like when you go in there, shut the door, and you turn around in consciousness, looking to God, not to the world? How often do we need an answer to something and we pound the pavement? Did you ever need just a little bit more money to go buy something at the grocery store and start rooting in the sofa? I have. Worried about what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, what you're going to wear. Take it all to God. Go inside. Shut down your awareness of what's going on out here. Stop hearing with your ears. Stop seeing with your eyes. Start looking with your heart. Start listening inside to the silence of your being. And when you turn and face that door, as the song said, He is the open door. That door opens, and the light of divine intelligence shines upon you. And when I was a kid, one day my dad brought home what was to be a new toy for me. I think he found it in the trash at Procter & Gamble where he worked. But it was a magnifying glass. About that big. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was just the glass, no frame or anything. And I remember the autumn, walking to school in autumn. And it seemed in those days there were more leaves on the ground than they seem to be these days. Maybe it's because I was smaller. But that sound of the rustle of the leaves. And people burned leaves then. That smell in the air. But what was a real treat was to go outside with that magnifying glass and find some leaves and catch the sun just right. And pretty soon, that little pinpoint of light on that leaf would start to smoke. And then you might even hear the pop as it erupted into flame. That light of the sun became intensified enough to release light and heat. When we go into the silence, when we go into that secret place of the Most High within, and we go in with an open mind, a knowledge that we are one with God, as Jesus said so many times, the Father and I are one. You and I are one. To realize there is no separation. Charles says there are only two walls that we build between us and God. And one of those is that God is so great and we are so bad that there's no relationship. Or God is so far away we can't reach Him. That's what we call the sense of separation. Those are the only walls. And they're all in our own thinking. Remove the blockages, and that door opens. And that beautiful sunny day, autumn day, you catch the rays in that magnifying glass. It becomes your open, receptive consciousness. And whatever it's directed on, it brings light and power, wisdom, understanding. You have to realize that not only are you and the Father one, but you can go to headquarters and, Jesus said, when you pray, believe that you have received. When you go to headquarters and you turn around and you face that open door and the light streams in and you take that light into your consciousness, ideas begin to flow in you. It is important to believe that you are receiving something, because you never touch that essence of the divine within yourself without being changed. I like to think that every time I do, I come out even prettier, younger, thinner, smarter. We are changed, but not in ways that is important to human sense, but to our sense of I am. We become more aware of that divine power working through us. Rely less and less upon the little me, the human ego.